Okay. So now, we are now sa item analysis. The following are difficulty index, discrimination index, and measures of attractiveness. First off, we have difficulty index, and this only refers to the number of people who answered an item correctly. This only refers to the degree on how easy or how difficult the test items are. No? So we do not want to normally as teachers, we do not want all of our test items to be too easy or sayon lang kaayo nga wala na siya challenge. So wala na challenge ang ato ang mga test items that will lead presumably no sa boredom. Mabored ang mga bata no because there's nothing anymore to learn or be challenged about. So ma-demotivate ang bata nga mag-learn or seryosohon ng imuhang assessment if all of your items are too easy. So dili pud maayo nga butan or anghel kay ka nga teacher yourself, no? Now, on the other hand, we do not also want our test items to be too difficult because that will also demotivate the students, no? Ngano maningkamot pa man ko kung maningkamot ko o dili ko maningkamot between sa mag-exert og effort or dili ko mag-exert og effort, masiro man gihapon ako ang score because lisod man gihapon kayo ang exam ni ma'am and sir. Now, that points us or that leads us to the reason that we have to check on the difficulty index of the items para nga dili kayo siya sobra kalisod, dili po kayo siya sobra kaasayo ng items. Okay, na lang siya sa moderate no, moderate level or degree ang difficulty sa matag items na naa sa ato ang test questionnaire. Okay? Now the formula for that, remember the formula is only um, the total number of students who got the item right and then divide that to the total number of students who took the test or who answered the item. Okay? Ano na siya class no? Now, here is the interpretation table for the difficulty index. So please memorize this ha. Paliw ko memorize ani class because this will come out in your examinations and you will no longer be allowed to open your notes. So memorize so nato ni tanan ha. Now, in interpreting the difficulty index, baliktad na siya class. When we say that taas ang difficulty index sa usa ka item, that means to say nga ang item kung taas kayo siya, very easy ang item. Like this one, no, the range for the difficulty index is 0.81 to 1.0. That is categorized under the very easy item. And kung very easy gani ang item class, our decision for that is automatically reject. Rejection dyan na siya. Pasabot ang rejection, we totally replace the item, we delete the item, no? And then totally replace that with a new one. Ana siya ang kanang pasabot sa rejection. Now, on the other hand class, if the what do you call this one? If the difficulty index is baba kaayo siya, baba kaayo ang difficulty index, that means to say that the item is very difficult. So baliktad siya. Okay? Pag ang range na niya sa very difficult item is between 0 to 0.20. That is the difficulty index ha sa very difficult. Now, if very difficult po siya, the same decision also applies, no? Rejection gyapon ta padulong ana class. Reject jud nato nga item kay hasta niyang lisura wala or gamay ra kaayo ang makatama ana. Ana no? Now, if we tone down kani siyang very difficult, maabot ta diri sa level sa difficult item. Difficult item only consists of the range of 0.21 to 0.40. Okay? So, ang pag-round off na to sa mga difficulty index class, remember, to the nearest hundredths ta or sa second decimal place ta dapit mag-round off. Remember that ha? Take note of that. And pag-practice na mo og kanang solve og pas-pas. Kay basin magbuhat ta og kuan no, magpa-item analysis lang di ay for the whole exam. So you have to prepare for that. Kay solving math problems no takes a lot of time. Okay? So now, Sa third kuan, sa third level, mao ni siya ang pinaka-ideal class. Kani siya ang pinaka-ideal, kaning moderately difficult. This is the principal goal no sa ato ang test construction nga tanan natong items mosulod siya diri sa moderately difficult. So, pila man ning moderately difficult, that is 0.41 to 0.60. And then, pag moderately difficult, no, our decision for that is retain. Mayingon gani tag retain class, when we say retain, wala din na nato hilabtan ng item because it has already passed the standard na moderately difficult ang item dapat. Okay? Now, there is a difficult, the decision on the other hand is revise siya. Pasabot ang revise, we do not delete the item but we do something no, or we edit something on that same item. So i-edit lang nato ang item kung difficult siya ato siyang pasayon-sayonon gamay para maabot siya diri sa moderately difficult. Now, kung mubaba ta class, we have the range of 0.61 to 0.80. Pasabot ana the item is easy. Easy na siya na item. And likewise, the decision here is revise lang siya, revision, sama sa difficult, no? Kung saan na to siya pag-revise, we revise it na palisod-lisuron na to siya gamay para mahimo siyang moderately difficult. Dire man gud sa moderately difficult class, pasabot ana is kanang kuan siya, challenging siya but not too challenging. Para nga ma-discourage ang mga students sa ilahang assessment. Okay? Now, sa kinalasan, like what I said earlier, no, very easy, rejection dyan na siya automatically ang decision. So, memorize this one, the index range, the difficulty level, and the decision. Okay? Memorize dyan na siya ninyo. And then, what else? Here is a sample koan class. Here is a sample problem. Okay, so I would like to call 3 persons to try to solve. So again, the formula no is total number of students who got the item right over the total number of students who answered the particular item. So who would like to answer sa item number 1, item number 2, and then item number 3? Calling volunteers no from the group. Sige, or manawag na lang ko kung wala mo volunteer. Anyone? Naghilom-hilom na kay solution naman. Dire na lang ta kay kuan. May I call, kinsa tong nag-raise hand? Sige, who was that? Okay, Miss Navarre, item number 1, Patayon, number 2. We need last one, last participant. Isa ning isa. And Miss Felicio for the third item. So, ang uban, kung ano lang sa ang uban ha. Again, first item, second item, third item. Patayon sa second, third, Felicio. Navarre ba tong first item? Kalimot ko. Yes, Chaika Navarre. So, time starts now. Please say please just say your answer once you're ready. Okay, Miss Navarre. Yes. Yes, Mr. Patayon. No problema. No problem. Miss Navarre, are you ready? Sige. So, your answer is? Patay dito sa 1.25. Are you sure? Sige. So, we'll give you more time. How about you, Mr. Patayon? 0.8. Sige. Try, Mr. Patayon. Try. Okay, thank you, Miss Navarre. How about you, Mr. Patayon? Try the number one. Okay. 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 Um, except for one, sa point 56, that is under moderately difficult. But the rest, yeah, very accurate. Okay, so nakuha na class unsaon ang kuan solution. So tama tong giingon no nga. Okay, so tama tong giingon no sa item number 1, 25 divided by 45 because there are 45 students who answered item number 1. So the result for that is 0.56. Na round off na siya no to the second decimal place. So 0.56 is under the range of moderately difficult. Therefore, the decision for that is retained. Whereas 18 divided by 27, 18 divided by 45 again, because 45 man siya tanan ka students, the result for that is 0.40, and 0.40 is under the range of difficult. So kung difficult siya, the decision for that is revised. Now, the third one, I would like to call the third one. I believe that's Miss Felicio. What's your answer? 0.88. Are you sure? Okay. So, okay, so it's not 0.88, no, it's 0.89. Okay, 0.89 na siya, no, because don't forget, you have to round off again to the nearest second decimal place or nearest hundredths na siya kung sa mathematics pa na parlance. Alright? So now, kung 0.88 siya, what is the interpretation for that? Under what difficulty level? Very easy. And it's very easy. What do we do with that item? Okay, rejection siya. Alright? So, okay, so rejection na siya class automatically. So that is how you discern no whether you revise, retain, or reject an item. Only class, only if the data available is solely the difficulty index. So nakuha na ba ang konsepto, everyone? Okay, very good. So, sayon man dyan ang mga examples, no? Pero pag abot sa exam, okay, tingala na lang mo, aha man ko pang kuha. But, hopefully, dili nga na may tabo, no, sa midterms. Sige. So, mali ito siya na. Morning ang tamang answer, 0.56, 0.40, and 0.89. Okay? Now, ambak na ta sa discrimination index class. When we say discrimination index, this is the one, no? This is just the difference between the upper group and the lower group. Okay, now let's introduce now the concept of the upper group and the lower group. So who are the upper group members? When we say upper group, sila tong mga highest scorers or mga perfect scores per may sa exam. They are regarded as the achievers. Whereas on the other hand, we have the lower group, which is composed of low performers or katong pinakabugo class or katong mga bugo-bugo or gamay lagkuha sa exam. Sila tong mga lower group. Okay? So, hopefully, no, naabot dapit sa upper group or sa average man lang at least. All right. Now, remember, the assumption class, no, the assumption for upper group is that sila lang ang naay karapatan makatama sa item. Given na natay isa ka item answeran, and between the upper group and the lower group, sila lang ang dapat naay karapatan nga makatama sa item, ang upper group. So kung mamali ang upper group ana nga item, dili siya pwede. Kay mao na siyang assumption jud sa mga upper group members. Dili siya pwede no or kanang kasuklam-suklam siya kung mamali siya sa mga item because again, he or she is belong sa upper group. Now, sa lower group, the assumption for the lower group members is that wala sila'y karapatan na makatama sa item. Okay? Kung ma-perfect sila or maka-answer sila correctly sa item, mga baga sila naong. Okay? So, ang lower group, wala sila'y karapatan nga makatama. Remember that ha, upper group, sila lang ang na-I right or entitlement to correct the item, to answer a correct, to answer a correct item. And then, the lower group, wala sila'y karapatan na makatama sa item. And now, why do we introduce discrimination index? Because our purpose man sa assessment, no, is to determine the achievement, the performance of our students. Dili pwede class nga ang ato ang mga exam, ang ato ang mga quizzes, dili kabalo mo ila kinsa ang mga bugo ug kinsa ang mga bright. Dili na siya pwede class na ang imuhang test no tanga-tanga ang imuhang test dili makaila kinsa ang mga members sa upper group o kinsa ang mga members sa lower group di na niya ma-distinguish, and we do not want that to happen because the process of assessment is to gather data about the students' progress in order to determine no, their strengths and weaknesses, and it will also help us in return to decide on what is the best thing to do next. 'Di ba? 'Di ba ang mga kuan, ang mga nagkalisod sa exam, nagkalisod sa lesson, sila tong atong dapat tabangan. And dili nato ma-identify, ma-determine or ma-diagnose kato siya ng mga cases sa mga students if our assessment tests kay dili maka-discriminate between the upper group and the lower group. Are you agree? Do you agree with me? 'Di ba? So ingana siya ang purpose sa discrimination index. Now, we have the formula below no sa discrimination index. That is the difficulty index of the upper group minus the difficulty index of the lower group. So, dili ta pwede moambak diretso sa discrimination index if we do not know how to solve for the difficulty index in the first place. Okay? So, kinahanglan kabalo ta mag difficulty index before we jump straight to discrimination index. So, class, nasabtan ba? Or lisod kaya akong explanation? Sabtan lang no kay mga upper group man jud ni siguro ning 2A. Upper group ba? Dili po. Patay to dira. Okay, so mailhan na siya karong midterm kinsay mga upper group and lower group. Pwede siguro ta mag-announcement ana no sa GC. Gusto ninyo? Okay ra sa inyo mag-announcement kinsang upper group ug lower group? Bitaw, just kidding. So, class, here is the table of interpretation no, for discrimination index. Again, you memorize the table. Memorize ninyo ng table no because again, sa inyong examination, bawal mo magdala sa inyong notes. So, you have to isaulo ninyo tanang mga interpretation table because 90% this will come handy no sa inyong examination taking. Now, sugod ta sa pinakaubos, we regard an item as a poor item if its discrimination index is below 0.19. That includes mga negative integers like -1, -0.35, -0.36. Okay? That means to say na dili niya kaya i-discriminate kinsa ang kuan. That means to say na dili na niya kaya i-discriminate no tong upper group and lower group. Pasabot ana is sa negative discrimination nangibabaw na si lower group kontra kay upper group. So dili na siya pwede na ang mga bugo ang nakatama sa item, daghan ang mga bugo nakatama sa item, then gamay ang mga bright nga nakatama sa same item. So that is a mortal sin sa assessment in learning. So, bawal na siya ha, kanang poor item. Now, we regard something as marginal item if its discrimination index is 0.20 to 0.29. That is a marginal item, no? And that already has the ability to properly determine kinsa tong members sa upper group and members sa lower group on the other side. Then for the third one, we have here the reasonably good item. So sa reasonably good item, 0.30 na siya to 0.39. Pasabot na mas taas-taas na siya og discrimination index. But the very ideal one here is katong mga naga-range sa 0.40 pataas. Mo na siya ang very good item nato at least, no, sa level of discrimination. So I hope no na nakuha nato tanan. We wanted our test na maka-discriminate jud sila kinsa tong nag-study, kinsa tong wala nag-study, kinsa tong mga naglisod o kinsa tong sayon lang para sa ilaha ang exam or test. Okay? Okay, assessment man ni siya, assessment in learning. Mahibal-an nato kinsa ang nakatuon o kinsa ang wala nakatuon. Now, for item analysis class, again, no, the formula for that is the difference between the difficulty index of the upper group and then the difficulty index of the lower group. So always remember that formula. Now, let's scout or investigate the matrix. We have here the upper group. The upper group no is 20 sila ka buo. Kani constant ni siya nagihatag ha. Upper group is 20 sila ka buo. So out of 20, only 14 got the correct answer. And then only 6 out of 20 got the wrong answer from the upper group. Pasabot sa upper group na iunom na malian nga item. O tayo, assume na to item number 1 siya. Now, at the same time, in the lower group, 20 po sila kabuok. Only 7 got the correct answer. So 7 lang sa ila ang naka-correct answer. And then 13 ang namali ato na same item. Now, unsaon nato ni siya pag-solve class. So here is the solution na. So now class, first we get the difficulty index of the upper group in order to solve for the discrimination index. So the formula is total number of correct students over the total number of the upper group students. So pila man to kakuan class nakatama sa upper group. Okay, though that is 14 students and divide that to the total number or population sa upper group, 20, then we get the resultant value of 0.70. Okay, that is 0.70 for the upper group. So we set this aside for the meantime. Proceed tayo with the difficulty index of the lower group and we repeat the same process. Diba? As we recalled, the number of correct students sa lower group is only 7 students. And then we divide it likewise to the total population of the lower group students, 20 kabuok. So 7 divided by 20, that is 0.35 ang resultant value sa difficulty index of the lower group. Now, since we have already obtained the values for the difficulty index of upper group and lower group, this is the time to solve for discrimination index. So 0.70 minus 0.35, the resultant value for discrimination index is 0.35. All right? Now, balik ta sa table, interpretation table, 0.35 belongs to, who wants to try? Okay, so that is reasonably good item. Okay, so now Mr. Glapa, when we say reasonably good item, can we determine if if the item has enough discriminatory power or no? Okay na ba siya? Okay na ba ang 0.35 or reasonably good item for in terms of discrimination? Yes, okay ra siya. Ang butang na atong i-avoid jud diri is kaning poor item. Okay, kaning poor item, we do not want this to happen. Kaning poor item. Now, okay, so who would like to try this one? Any raise hands from the group? Para mahuman tagdali. Wala na, nakahilom na. So, pwede mo kuhag papel. Sige, laban na si Mr. Awatin. Sige, so, you may now start. Sige, sige ra. You may now start. So let's give time no to our volunteer while he is no. Ay kadali lang. Sorry. Going. Kanina lang Mr. Awatin. Kanina lang ang isolve oh. Kani. Isolve na kanina lang ang isolve instead. So kato lang siya class no, always remember the to solve the discrimination index, you remember the formula no, between the that is the difference between the this difficulty index of the upper group minus yes, difficulty index of the lower group. So your answer is point 0.4. So anyone else who answered the same item on your own? Tama ba si Mr. Awatin? Okay. So to reveal the answer, so the difficulty index of the upper group that is 0.93 and the difficulty index of the lower group that is 0.53. So we deduct no 0.53 from 0.93, then we get the value 0.40. Mali na yung 0.43. Napugo na akong slide. Okay, so that is 0.40, and if we go back to the interpretation table, how do we describe the item kung 0.40? Okay, so 0.40 and above, that is a very good item. So pasabot, the item being sold is able to discriminate the members between the members of the upper group and the members of the lower group. So ana lang, 'di ba? So plus equally important from the from solving the item, being able to solve the item is being able to understand what is the result of your solution. Okay, so dili kung ano importante magyapon makasolve ka kabalo ka mo compute, you know the formula and all, and everything in between. But it is also equally important no to know better unsa mo pag-interpret sa imuhang result, sa imuhang solution. Mora jud na siya ang punto sa assessment. Kabalo ka pag motungtong og ani ang result sa solving nimo sa difficulty index, unsay pasabot ana, unsa ang decision, o kung motungtong og ani ang value sa imuhang discrimination index, kasabot ka unsa ang pasabot ana. Okay? O kana lang atong mga hinumduman. Now, we have different types of discrimination to consider. Okay, the first one here, class, is positive discrimination. So when we say positive discrimination, class, note this, kato na siyang mga value sa discrimination index nga positive integers siya, except sa zero ug negative numbers. Okay? Ang zero ug negative numbers, dili to sila under sa positive discrimination. When we say positive discrimination, this only tells us that upper group is greater than the lower group. Pasabot anak class, tanang mga bright class members sa upper group ni dominate sila sa item compared to the members of the lower group. Now, question, does that make sense class? Does it make sense na ang upper group mo dominate sila over the lower group? Does it make sense? Anyone? Sige, so balik-balik namang maningog, no? Ah, yes, Mr. Lugnasin. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lugnasino. So we go back to the assumption that the upper group members are the only ones entitled to get a correct, answer the item correctly. Remember, the assumption is only the upper group members are allowed to answer the item correctly. So therefore, going back to the question, this therefore makes sense. This therefore discriminates, no, or it is a discriminating item pag positive discrimination siya. Now, on the other hand, class, when we say negative discrimination, no, mao ni siya tong mga negative integers that I have mentioned earlier. So, naga-discriminate ba gyapon ang negative discrimination? Yes or no? Naga-discriminate ba gyapon siya? Okay, so the answer is yes. However, there is a problem. Okay, because in this case, no, as opposite to positive discrimination, uh, the lower group is dominating or greater than the higher group. Meaning, ang mga bugo hinoon ang nakatama sa item, unya ang mga bright nangamuti or nangabagsak. So does that make sense, class? Does that make sense, anyone? Does it make sense? Mm. Tama, exactly, no, Miss Navarre. So, that is the point there, no? Balik ta dito sa assumption. Okay, so ngano sila man ang naka-answer. Ang mga bugo man na sila. So, kaanya siya class, no? Kanang ato ang education system is promoted as inclusive, kanang free from any forms of discrimination, no, of all discrimination of all forms. However, sa assessment in learning, kinahanglan nato ning discrimination. Okay, mao man ang magtesta para mailhan nato kinsa tong mga top, isa tong mga top na learners, kinsa pud tong mga failing or mga poor performers. Ana siya, no? So kinahanglan nato siya i-discriminate jud. So dili jud siya pwede class. Dapat ikasuko jud nato na nga ang mga lower group matama sa item, mas daghan ang mga members sa lower group ang makatama compared sa upper group. So therefore, we can conclude, no, na this negative discrimination is a questionable item. Questionably siya. Okay, it does not make sense therefore. Now, when we say zero discrimination, this happens, no, when the difficulty index of the upper and lower group is equal. Okay, pasabot ana pareha ang discrimination index sa upper group, pareha pod ang discrimination index sa lower group. Ana siya class. And we cannot accept that either because because kanila yung zero discrimination class, zero ang ang pasabot ani ang index ani is zero. Ngano dili siya positive na belong sa positive or negative because ang zero na number sa according sa sa number theory, no, na ginatawag nila, ang zero na number wala siya naga-bear og sign. Wala siya positive or negative sign, neutral siya. So kung mo ingon tag zero discrimination, zero ang resulta, therefore dili siya maka-discriminate kinsa tong bright, kinsa tong dili bright. That is what we call zero discrimination. Okay? Kung zero discrimination siya, di na niya mailhan kinsa ang bright or bugo. Nga naman, it could either be the test is too easy or the test is too difficult. Pasabot aning test is too easy, maskin katong kinabuguan nga members sa lower group, kaya niya if perfect ang test. That is zero discrimination. On the other hand, it could also be too difficult where in fact kanang pinaka-brightan sa tanang summa cum laude, di niya matama na nga item tungod sa iyahang kalisod. Okay? So, therefore, di niya mailhan kinsa ang mga members sa upper group, kinsa pod ang mga members sa lower group. Kay kung namali naman gani ang summa cum laude, namali pod ang kuan, labaw nang namali ang sa lower group. Kung kuntahay nakatama ang pinakabugo sa kuan sa members sa lower group, labaw na makatama tong mga magna cum laude or mga summa cum laude to be, 'di ba? So mao na siya ang kuan sa zero discrimination. Kaning zero discrimination and negative discrimination, we do not want them, no, na ma-associate siya sa ato ang test questionnaire. So mao na siya ato ang i-avoid. Now class, nakasabot ba tanan sa explanation? Okay, so I hope, no, na enlighten na tanan ninyong mga kuan, no. So kuan, no, expect lang basin daghan-daghan ni siya sa examination. Okay? Basin lang. So now class, here we have another scheme no for deciding. This is what we called item analysis final decision. So pwede mo decide whether i-reject, retain, or revise ang item kung available lang na data sa ato is the difficulty index. Now, to introduce another thing here, pwede po ta maka-decide when two data are available. That is the difficulty index and discrimination index. So memorize, memorize, memorize na po ang mga persons karon. Now, when do we retain the item? So we retain the item on the basis no of two conditions. Duha ni siya ka condition. The first condition we have here is when the difficulty index of the item is between 0.26 to 0.75. So tanaw nimo ang tanaw nimo ang difficulty index kung wala siya nanobra or nakulang ani na range, therefore we can say that the first condition is fulfilled. So hapit na siya mahimong retain. However, there is still second condition to meet. The second condition here is when discrimination index is 0.20 and above. Now, given na kung tahay class, ang discrimination index is 0.18. So, na-fulfill ba ang ato ang kuan? Na-fulfill ba ang ato ang second condition class or wala? 0.18 ang discrimination index. Wala. Because the minimum, bare minimum here is 0.20. Alright? 0.20 siya. So, kinahanglan kaning duha at the same time, these two conditions will be met. No? Dapat ma-meet siyang two conditions. Otherwise, kung naay isa nga mawala sa duha, naay isa nga di matuman sa duha, we revise the item. Remember, kung naay isa sa duha nga dili matuman, we revise the item. Now, sir, what if wala dyan natuman sa duha ka conditions? When both conditions are not met or not fulfilled, thereby we reject the item. Automatically, we reject the item. So, why pag-ipot-ipot? So, memorize ni kay again, wala man tay open notes during the midterm exams. Okay, class. So, again, nasabtan lagi hapon. Okay, that's good. Now, class, finally, no, nakaabot na ta dire. So, we have the following steps in conducting item analysis. So, mag-item analysis na daw ta, which we will do also no as part of your final requirement soon. So, paminaw mugtarong. Now, in conducting item analysis, first, magbuhat yung taong mga test questions. So, ma-apply na dito no, tong inyuha magbuhat mong TOS, pagkuman magbuhat mong test questions. Pagkauman, you administered the test questions to a group of learners. So, standard nato sa kuan is 50 kabuok. Pwede ta 50 kabuok. Now, after that, we check the test result no of the learners. I-check na to isa-isa ang mga test result. Then, kani siya class, ang pinaka-importante, di ninyo kalimtan. Always check, no? Arrange the scores of all learners in descending order. So, i-rearrange ninyo tanang papel class gikan sa highest scorer, pababa class sa lowest scorer. Remember ha, gikan sa highest scorer, pababa sa lowest scorer. This is very important kay i-determine man nato kinsa ang mga members sa upper group and kinsa po ang mga members sa lower group. Number 5, tabulate the scores in an Excel file. So, mo ni siya ang kuan class, mo ni siya ang format sa ato ang tabulation. Ano siya? Tabulation nato. Okay, so expected class nga ang tabulation nato no is nakapasunod siya. I-check jud ninyo siya diri class kung nakapasunod siya. So tan-aw ninyo nakapasunod ba siya class ang numbers? Nakapasunod ba ang kuan gikan sa highest down to the lowest scorer? Si Jessamay nakascore og 6, Beverly 6, Roy Angelo 5, Richard 5, maybe. Oo. So i-check yun. O, di mo magtinanga ha pag tagaan na mo table. Kinahanglan you check kung nakapasunod ba ang table class because that is very crucial or important. Now, after tabulating the scores, ay katong dahil sa tabulation, balik ta. So, mao ni siya class no sa there is a kuan class, there is a column class. This is for the items. For the items class. And then there is a kuan class sa row class. Kani siya, ay kani siyang diri class na part. Di ni siya row, column din ni siya sa student name. So, mao ni siya ang sa kuan no, mga names sa students. Alright? So now class, kung tayo sa item number 1, ang answer ni nakatama si Jessamine, butangan nato na siya 1. Then on the other hand, sa item number 2, na mali man si Jessamine, butangan nato siya 0. So ang scoring no, kanang scoring nga 1 og 0, 1 for correct answer and 0 for the wrong answer, that is what we call dichotomous scoring. So kung mali siya, automatic assign ka og 0 dira sa tabulation. Pag tama siya, assign ka og 1 to indicate no na nakatama siya ana na item. Then repeat the process until mahuman ka sa 10 items. Sunod na pod kay Beverly 10011110011. Then until such time na mahuman ka kay Carl Bryan. So that is how you kuano, that is how you tabulate your scores. And dapat pag tabulate nakapasunod na ang imuhang scores. Again, nakapasunod na dapat siya. Now, after tabulating the scores, no, you compute now the number of students belonging in the upper group using the formula. Upper group is equals to upper group is equals to n times 0.27. Memorize ni na formula kay constant ni siya. Now, pila man kabok ang students diri class sa table? Pila kabuok? Okay, so there are 8 students. Now, 8 times 0.27, pila kabok ang upper group ato? 8 times 0.27, pila naman kabok ang upper group? There is a table. Anyone? Okay. That is ko ano 2.16 and dili man nato pwede chop-chopon ng ikatulong nga kuan tao para mag 2.16 na siya. So round off jud ta to the whole number, to the nearest whole number. Therefore, kung i-round off siya, dili dili pwede mag 2.2. Oh, okay, 2. Kay di na to pwede chop-chopon ng ikatulo. I-chop-chop na tong tiil para dili pwede nga chop-chopon na tong ikatulo no para ma 2.2. So round off to the nearest whole number, that is 2 persons. Now, kung na-compute na nimong upper group, same ra pud na siya sa lower group. Dili pwede class hang ang upper group nimo tulo, ang lower group nimo 5 ka buok. Dili pwede ha, dapat pareha ra jud ng upper group and pareha ra pud ng lower group. Okay? So now continue tayo. We have the we have to after computing the number of the upper group and the lower group members, this is now the time not to start solving for the difficulty index. Sorry. I will show you a sample of the computation table for that one. So in the item number 1 and for the rest of the items, no mo ni siya ang matrix natong i-follow. And beside that is the interpretation table. Ato siyang gibutang no as reference pag pag mag describe na and decide whether to revise ba or reject the item solely based on the difficulty index. Now, so based sa tong data na nakita ganihan no, there are 2 upper group and lower group na members. So i-usab na to ni siya into 2 kabuok 2. So we will only try 3 items for item analysis. The item numbers 1 to 3. Okay, kaya lang ha. Items number 1 to 3 and then we clear this out. Clear nato ni siya no. Para nga to make room for the new computations. Okay. Alright. Now, balik tayo sa data. Balik ta dire. So, so the next thing that we have to do here is to to count the number of That is to count the number of students from the upper group who got the correct answer sa item number 1. So ihapon nato class sa item number 1 dere only both Jessamay and Beverly got the correct answer. So si Jessamay and Beverly sila man ang ato ang kuano upper group because we count no katong di ba duha ka buok upper group and lower group, so mag-count ta ang counting magsugod na siya gikan sa pinakataas, gikan sa highest scorer. So 1, 2, therefore Jessamine and Beverly are the members of the upper group. Now to introduce the members of the lower group, mag-count ang counting sugod punta sa pinakaubos. Okay? So Carl, Brian, and Jennifer 1, 2. So silang duha ang members sa lower group. Now sir, kuntahay sir si Jennifer 3 man ang iyang score o si Jober Queen 3 po ang iyang score, pareha silang score. So automatic ba i-appeal na to si Jober Queen as member of the lower group? Kay presumably pareha man silang score na 3. So kung tayo class, in that instance, the answer to that question is no. Dili nato pwede ikuan class, dili nato pwede i-appeal si Jober Queen because again, balik ta dito sa tong computation sa upper group and lower group, duha lang jud kabuok ang members sa upper group and sa lower group. Dili na ta pwede mag-allocate og another isa because pareha sila og score na 3, si Jober Queen o si Jennifer. So ana siya class ha. You have to remember that. Okay? So now class, after ko pwede niyo siya kuluran, pwede siya circulan. Now after determining who are the members of the upper group and the lower group, that is the time that you count the that you not count but you answer the matrix for each item. Now for example item number 1 sa upper group, duha ka buok ang nakatama, therefore duha ang butang nato dire. Now, kung duha ang nakatama out of 2 members of the upper group, therefore, walay na mali. That is 0. Then, there is a lower group, tanaw na to siya, duha ang nakatama sa lower group. So, butang ko na to siya, duha dire. Kung duha ang nakatama, 0 po siya. Now, in solving the discrimination index, so pag-solve sa discrimination index class, ana na siya. So, tanaw na to pila ka buok ang tanang nakatama sa upper group and lower group, then divide nato na siya sa tanang members sa upper group and lower group. So kung tahay ang nakatama class sa upper group and lower group, upat tanan, then upat na po ang members sa upper group and lower group. So 4 divided by 4 na siya. And 4 divided by 4 equals to 1. Therefore, the difficulty index here is 1.0 ba na siya or 1. Now, based sa atong interpretation table, when we say 1 ang difficulty index, we describe it as very easy. And pag very easy gani ang item, we decide it as rejected. Rejection siya padulo. So nga na lang ang process class sa item analysis for difficulty index. Now for item number 2 class, same process gyapon pero dire na ta sa item number 2. Now sa item number 2, item number 2, ihapon na po nato pila ka buok ang namali. Ay natama rather. So now class, sa upper group class, walay nakatama sa kay Jessamay ug Beverly. So automatic 0 ni siya. Then to dire. And then sa lower group, wala po yung nakatama sa same item among the lower group members. So type na to siya 0, 2. Now, direta sa difficulty index, i-compute na nato siya. So pila ka buok ang nakatama sa upper group and lower group. So wala. Therefore 0. And divide na to siya sa total population or numbers sa upper group and lower group students. That is 4. So 0 divided by 4, that is equals to 0. Okay? So now, since 0 man ang ato ang difficulty index, putang nato siya dire 0. And kung 0 gani, that is very difficult. Kung very difficult ang item, likewise, rejected ni siya na item. So, ana lang no. Then lastly, sa tong example sa item number 3, tanaw na to siya, pila ka po ang nakatama. Only one member of the upper group got the correct answer, no? So 1 ang putang dire, then 1 pud ang nabalik. Now sa lower group, sa item number 3, so kung 0 ang nakatama, walay nakatama, no? So duha ang nabalik. Now, solve na punta sa difficulty index class. Di is equals to 1 divided by 4. So, isa man ang nakatama, no? So, 1 divided by 4. So, that is 0.25. So, 0.25 ang ato ang difficulty index sa item number 3. Now, the difficulty index of number 3, let's take a look back sa ato ang interpretation table. So, this is within the difficult na item. So, therefore, 0.25 is described as difficult, and pag difficult na siya, we interpret it as again the item, no, pag difficult gani na item, we only revise it. There's no need for that to be rejected. So ingana ang ato ang pamaagi, no, for the difficulty index. Now sa discrimination index, ato na po na siyang i-clearing ang mga existing entries to make way for the new ones. Okay. Kaya lang ha. Okay. So, we cleared the entries to make way for the new ones. And we also edit out the upper group, no? So, upper group mo na to, delete 4, but on 2 ang members to ang upper group. So, a minute lang ha. Ako sa ang edit. Kaya delete ang malipat. Okay, ang ato ang upper group originally is duha lang ka po, not 4. Duha ka po. Okay, so now, ato lang ikopya ang again, no, kung pila ka buok ang right o wrong, ato lang siyang kopyahon. So, sa item number 2, zero. So, 0 up to 1, 2, 0. So, now class, again, no, the solution for solving the discrimination index, that is to get muna no, the difficulty index of the upper group and the difficulty index of the lower group, and then we deduct, no, we subtract both subtrahands. Now, we start muna with item number 1. So, ang difficulty index sa upper group sa item number 1, so, kuan siya, no, 2 divided by 2 is equals to 1. Okay? Now, ang difficulty index now sa lower group, so, pila ka buok ang nakatama sa lower group. So, 2 ang nakatama divided by 2 ka-members sa lower group. So, that is also equals to 1. Now, the discrimination index for that one, discrimination index is equals to, kung 1 ang sa upper group, 1 po ang sa lower group, therefore, discrimination index is 0. So, nakakuha ta og 0 discrimination. And when we say 0 discrimination, we regard it as poor item. And pag poor item siya, pwede rin ni siya wala ang decision. Poor item na siya. And then, same process will apply, no, for the item number 2. Una ko na to ang upper group. Upper group is equal, so pila ang nakatama sa upper group? Wala. So, that is, then divide na to siya sa total number sa members sa upper group. Then 0 divided by 2, that is 0. Then for the lower group, same process. Wala man po yung nakatama, so same solution siya. 0 divided by 2. Also 0. Now, kung sa discrimination index sa item number 2, the upper group is, the difficulty index of the upper group is 0 minus the lower group 0 pod equals 0. Now, class observe, kaning item number 1 ug item number 2, pareho sila 0 discrimination. However, there is a difference no, in terms of the interpretation. Sa item number 1, tungkol kang difficulty index 1, 1 minus 1 man siya. So, automatically, both the upper groups and the lower groups can be ano, there it is safe to assume na tanang upper group, tanang members sa upper group and sa lower group na sayunan sila pag-ayos sa exam. Na even katong pinakabugo sa lower group, kaya niya i-perfect ng item or i-correct ng item. Now, for the for the other for the second item, tanan sila no ang upper group and lower group, ang difficulty index is both 0. So kung 0 na siya tanan class, pasabot ana grabe kalisod ang item na even ang kinabrightan sa tanang members sa upper group na mali siya ana nga same item. So, kinahanglan jud ha, kabalo jud ta dapat mo sabot sa ato ang solution. Kabalo ta mo sabot sa result sa ato ang solving. So, balik ta sa item number 2, that is 0 and poor item. And then sa item number 3, we regard this one as kuan class, no? We regard this one as kuan yapon, same yapon na solution. So, kung tanaw na to, upper group na punta, so isa nakatama, therefore 1 divided by total number of upper group students, 1 over 2 equals ana is 0.5. Now, balhin ta sa lower group, wala may nakatama, so 0 siya, divided by 2, that is equals to 0. Now, kung sa discrimination index class, ang sa upper group man, again, is 0.5 minus 0 sa lower group. So, ang result ana is 0.5. Now, class, kung 0.5 siya class, may 0.5, description for that item is very good item. So, ana lang siya. So, humanata sa ato ang discrimination index. Now, it is time for us to obtain the final decision. No? Okay? Na-solve naman nato both ang discrimination of difficulty index. Dahil ako sa nang i-array sa mga entries to make way for the new ones. So, upper group again is 2. Lower group is 2. So, upper group code is 2, lower group code is 2.
So that,
upper group 2, lower group 2. So, kopyahon lang ninyo gyapon diri itong mga correct class. So, pwede na ako to siya i-type diri usa. So, pwede rin ninyo siya kopyahon diri. Ang kopyahan pa ninyo, difficulty index. So, ang difficulty index na to, balik ta sa first sheet. So, 102.5. So, 10.25 dahil, not 2.5. 0.25. And sa discrimination index, balik ta. So, 0.5. So, 0.5. Now, let's take a look. No, sa atong final division. So, check na to sa item number 1, na siya difficulty index na 1. Nilampas siya sa first condition na 0.75 ang maximum. Therefore, ang first condition, wala siya na met. Then, sa second condition, discrimination index, dapat mo taas siya sa 0.20. Kaning 0 man siya, baba man siya. Therefore, the second condition is also not fulfilled. Therefore, if both conditions were not met, pasabot ana, i-reject na to siya automatically ang item. Kaya dili siya maayo ang item. Sa ikaduha, range sa atong difficulty index is 0.26 man siya kaabot ani, 0 man siya. Therefore, the first condition is not met. Sa discrimination index, likewise 0 man siya and the minimum for discrimination index is 0.2. So, the second condition is also not met. So, kung wala ang duha, reject po na siya. Now, check to dire. 0.25 plus, wala siya kaabot sa minimum nato na 0.26. So, ang first condition, wala na po siya na meet sa item number 3. Sa discrimination index, since ang 0.5 na meet niya ang minimum nga 0.2, therefore, na-fulfill ang second condition. Pag naay isa sa duha ka conditions ang na-meet, pasabot lang ana is revision. So, kani siya tanan class no, kung puntahay na kay 60 items sa imong test, buhatan nimo siya tanan og difficulty index na computations, discrimination index na computations, and katong final decision nga matrices or tables. So I guess kana lang siguro no for this tutorial. So thank you everyone no for listening until the end. So that's it, and if you have any questions no, pwede na ko ninyo pangutangan later. So kanilang daghang salamat and thank you. Now after the steps number 7 and number 8 where you computed for the difficulty index and the discrimination index, proceed na tayo with step number 9 no, which is about the ano, revision and replacement of all the items that needs to be changed based on the results of the item analysis. So, kung ingon na si item analysis ganihan na i-revise ni na item, you have to revise that one. If moingon ganiha si kuan, item analysis na reject that particular item, you have to reject that one and replace that with a new one. Now for number 10, administer again the revised test questionnaire and repeat the same process for item analysis as many times as necessary. So kung dili pa jud na siya mahuman-human ang mga errors, nagyapoy defective items, even if ka 20 na kabuok ka nag-item analysis, nag-revise, nag-administer og test questions, wala tay labot ana. Basta you can only you can only submit the final version of the test questionnaire once all items were found to be effective and acceptable. Kung nakapasar na ta ng items sa item analysis, pasabot ana, pwede na siya i-submit ang final version. Na-finalize na ang version sa test questionnaire.